Whitman here. I'm sitting with uber-elite education theorist James Paul Gee, author of What Video Games Have to Teach Us About Learning and Literacy. In this book, Gee argues that the reason video games are so engaging and successful is that they employ a lot of principles of good teaching, principles that educators should pay attention to, especially if they teach with computer technologies. I'd like to show you some of Gee's learning principles, as well as some useful reminders from computers and writing scholars, and I'm going to do so from within the World of Warcraft. I have a few reasons for this. First, World of Warcraft is like the best video game ever invented.
Certainly.
Secondly, as a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, or MMORPG, WoW is not only a video game, it's a social space, and so it shares a lot of features with other computer technologies that people use for socialization and collaboration, from social networking sites to instant messengers to collaborative composition programs. In short, as a teacher, you can apply what you see here to what you might use in your classroom, unless you're actually rad enough to use WoW in your classes, that is. My last reason for using WoW to talk about teaching with technology is that it's chock full of intelligent, helpful, mature, knowledgeable, polite people. The first important teaching principle that World of Warcraft shows us is active learning. Learning by actually doing something instead of just talking about it. Therefore, it's perfect for just-in-time teaching rather than boring banking model teaching. Here's an example of some banking model lecturing. Okay, Nessie, if you're ever out in the wetlands and you run into some murlocs and you want to fight the murlocs, first you'll need to summon your Voidwalker and target a murloc with a left click. Then you're going to open your fight with Curse of Agony, which causes 180 shadow damage over 24 seconds. This damage is dealt slowly at first, and it builds up as the curse reaches its full duration. That's why you have to cast it first. Then you send your Voidwalker in to tank for you and hold aggro. Then you'll cast Immolate, which will burn the target for 51 fire damage with an additional 90 fire damage over 15 seconds.
Of course.
Then you cast Corruption, which causes 90 shadow damage over 15 seconds. Then you'll cast a Shadow Bolt, which will do 90 to 103 shadow damage. And then finally, when he's nearly dead, you cast Drain Soul on him so you can get a Soul Shard.
Huh?
Here's an example of good, just-in-time teaching. Alright, Nessie, see that Murloc? Now target him and summon your Voidwalker. Okay, start your attack with the Curse of Agony. Now send your Voidwalker in. Good. Now cast Immolate on him. Maybe a Corruption, too. And then hit him with the Shadow Bolt and Drain Soul.
Outstanding!
Hooray!
Haha, I'm invincible!
Here we see another connection between World of Warcraft and good teaching. They both encourage critical thinking. So why do you think you got killed there?
Because he was 17 levels higher than I am?
Exactly. James Gee argues that there's a dialectical interplay between active and critical thinking, which he calls the probing principle. Good learning is a process of trying something, reflecting on it, revising your theories or methods, and trying them again. World of Warcraft and computer technologies in general are excellent for probing. In Nessie's case, when she tried to fight the small Murloc, she succeeded, but when she tried the same strategies on an enormous 8, she got pwned.
I've discovered that getting pummeled by a blunt weapon can be quite painful.
After reflecting, Nessie decides that her best bet is to get some help killing this monster. World of Warcraft is also well suited to showing how multimodal communication works, which is useful if you're into theories from the New London Group or some of the hip young computers and composition academics like Kristen Arola and Cheryl Ball. For instance, I'd like to communicate to Nessie that I like her. I could type that in our chat window. I could emote a flirt with her.
Are you tired? 'Cause you've been running through my mind all day.
Or I could run over and jumping down on her head a bunch of times. All valid ways to communicate my message through the modalities of text, speech, and gesture. Even more specific to language and composition studies, one of the best lessons that MMORPGs show us is the principle that communication in a technological space is always situated within the social norms of the community who uses it. For example, let's look at one snapshot of the chat dialogue from an average night of World of Warcraft. The first person says, "Laugh out loud. Do any rogues or warriors who are level 60 or above want to come outside Stormwind City where we can fight and engage in one-on-one combat with me?" The second person says, "No, I don't want to play with you because you're weak, or I don't like you and I'm using homophobic language to express my feelings." The third person says, "I want to trade Shadowcloth, which is a trade item, for Spellcloth, which is another trade item, with someone else." Fourth person says, "I had the following enchantments for sale in order to make someone else's gear more powerful." Fifth person says, "What's the best piece of armor for my character between these three items?" Sixth person says, "I would like to buy the formula to enchant my weapons with fire if anyone's selling it." And I have no idea what this person's saying. You get the idea. Until now, I've been showing you a bunch of positive things about teaching with technology. But it's important to remember that every technology reflects the ideologies of the culture that creates it. And some of those ideologies might be what we in the biz call problematic. Fortunately, World of Warcraft contains no problematic ideologies whatsoever. It's also very important to remember that technologies tend to become invisible when we're used to having them around all the time. Cindy Self reminds us that we can't let this happen, because when something's invisible, you don't see how its power structures are operating. Ultimately, playing with social-based computer technologies can inject fun into any classroom, for you and your students. You don't even have to be an expert at something to teach with it. You just have to go into it with some sense of its benefits and of its limitations. In fact, exploring a new technology with your students is one of the best ways to show them how to think actively and critically about any technology. What video game technologies show us is that exploration is playful, and play isn't just about fun or distraction. Play is about keeping our options and minds open. Play fosters wonder, and wonder thwarts complacency. So above all, when you teach with technology, be willing to play with yourself. Oh, and one more thing. If your civilization is spending all of its manpower and resources to excavate a mountain and create a massive underground city that's a marvel of technological prowess, make sure you clear out the trogs first.